All right, a brand new Village Vice, and I'm just ready to take the guardrails off. I've been trying to, be smart and protect myself emotionally. Zach Blackerby, I'm ready to take the guardrails off. All right, Keyron Crawford, I believe. I feel like the guys in the Dark Knight. Well, I believe in Harvey Dent. I believe in Keyron Crawford. I do. I'm ready.
Yeah.
The media session he had yesterday, my guy is supremely confident. And now I am too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he's going to be the kind of guy who's just going to get better and better quickly while he's getting this SEC level of coaching. And, we kind of glossed over it a few times, but Keyron Crawford, I don't think he started playing high school football until like his junior or senior year. This isn't a guy who grew up playing the sport, which typically is a good thing when you're already this good and this developed and you haven't been playing it that long, so obviously he goes to Arkansas State. He had offers at other places, but went to Arkansas State. And then now he's in the SEC because he's an SEC type player. He's that good and he looks the part. And we're excited to see him take that next step. And the beauty of this is like, he's not Auburn's best pass rusher. And so opposing offenses aren't going to treat him as such. And so he's going to get to be he's going to get to benefit from being the number 2 edge guy to Jalen McLeod. And I kind of wonder how defenses are going to treat him compared to Keldrick Falk. I mean, I think Keldrick Falk will demand more attention. So Keyron Crawford is in a prime spot. Not only is he talented, not only is he hitting the ground running and just a specimen of a human being when you look at the guy, but when you're an offense trying to say, okay, how are we going to protect our quarterback from Auburn's front 7? He's probably 3rd on your list, which if that's what you're dealing with, that's an awesome spot to be in.
No question. Let me throw some numbers at you. All right. So this is more to me than just, he was confident in his press conference. Anybody can be confident in a press conference. Deion Sanders is supremely confident in every press conference he ever holds. Okay.
Sure.
So, all right. Player A, 37 pressures, 6 sacks. Player B, 39 pressures, 7 sacks. Do you know right off the top of your head what those numbers represent?
No, and you're saying pressures, right? Not pass rush attempts?
Correct.
Okay.
37 pressures, 6 sacks. 39 pressures, 7 sacks.
Pretty close.
Very close. Now, these aren't, all right, understand, I know the built-in caveats to this, all right? But player A is Jalen McLeod at Appalachian State in 2022.
Yeah.
Player B is Keyron Crawford at Arkansas State in 23. So Sun Belt school the year before coming to Auburn, 37-6, 39-7. Very similar. They're not the like their styles may be different. You can talk a little bit more about that, but I think from a productivity standpoint, Keyron has the potential to be this year as productive, as disruptive as Jalen was last year. And remember, Jalen wasn't healthy the full season. There were a handful of games where we saw Jalen really at 100%. And, the idea of seeing Keyron at 100% for a full season against a tackle that maybe thinks he's getting a break or a tackle that has to deal with Jalen, most of it, like, man, I just had to deal with this other guy. And now I get Keyron Crawford. And it's the same type of explosion coming at me.
The interesting thing about like comparing how we talked about Jalen last year versus how we talk about Keyron this year is there are differences because I know Jalen was coming in to kind of be the number 2 buck, or we called him Jack last year, but to Elijah McAllister. And I think we all kind of assumed he'd be the better pass rusher of the two, which we all were correct there. But the situation is similar in the sense that they're not going to be the main gods of their position, but we did kind of expect, okay, if Auburn's going to have a pass rush, like Jalen McLeod's got to figure it out. Keyron Crawford, we're not really there. But when we talked about Jalen and what he did at App State a year ago, it was that game against Texas A&M that gave us all this like excitement of, oh, arguably his best game of his last year at App State was against the SEC. And like, while A&M wasn't great, Auburn didn't have any pass rushers on their roster that played that well against A&M, and they've been in the SEC. So like that's one of the reasons why we were so excited about Jalen a year ago.
Yeah.
Keyron doesn't really have that. I mean, the best team that he played last year was Oklahoma. It was in their season opener at Arkansas State, and it was his worst game, according to PFF, of his season. So, like, I do think it's different. He played really well against Memphis, against Coastal, against ULM, against ULL, and against Texas State. Those were his best games. But it's like you would kind of expect that. The thing that Auburn's buck rushers, their edge players, are getting now that they haven't gotten in the last decade is they're getting to go up against Percy Lewis and Xavier Miller every day. They're actually going up against SEC, top half SEC caliber offensive tackles. And I think in the past, when a guy like Ekuliota or Marcus Bragg would transfer over and be those edge guys, they were going up against technically SEC offensive tackles, but not top half SEC offensive tackles. And to me, that's got to help. That has to help with their development and how they get ready for the season.
And not just the first guys they're going against, but even depth at that position. The battles, one and two deep.
Yeah, like Tyler Johnson is way better than what we had at tackle 5 years ago. 100%. Yeah.
So I know I like that a lot. And when I think again about the guys at that buck position, and I think about an opposing tackle, and I think about the fourth quarter when that tackle has had to go against Jalen McLeod and Keyron Crawford the entire game, the dam has to break. Going against those guys, now they are different players. Jalen's 6'1", Keyron's 6'4", Crawford a little bit heavier, but he also hasn't played football as long. There's more rawness there. There's more to develop. And I think we said this in passing. We're just kind of, laying it out and unpacking it a little more now. But going into this year, the combination of McLeod Crawford versus going into last year, the combination of McAllister and McLeod.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on much more solid footing going into this season. You feel like that's a bigger challenge for opposing tackles, especially with Keldrick Falk on the other side at one of the end spots.
Right. Yeah. I mean, comparing this year, you're talking about McLeod and Crawford, but you've got Keldrick on the other side versus a year ago it was McAllister and McLeod.
Yeah.
And I guess to start the year it was Messiah Nasilikite. And
that's right.
He was actually playing fine until he got hurt, but it's totally different. It's just a totally different situation that Auburn finds itself in. And I also think they're more effective in the middle. I mean, I know, is it Justin Rogers? Yeah, Justin Rogers they brought in a year ago. Like, I know he was a former 5-star, but I'd rather have what Auburn has this year in the interior than what they had last year. I mean, obviously you still have Jason Jones, but with Philip Bleedy coming in, with Malik Blockton apparently ascending quickly up the depth chart this fall camp, I just think you got more of a punch in the middle. I think Auburn's going to be more violent on the defensive front, and that's going to help with your pass rush, of course, on the edges, but as well as the interior, just because more attention is needed everywhere. If you're an offensive line, you're worried about this guy, you're worried about this guy, you're worried about these guys. And I don't know if you were necessarily worried about a whole lot of guys on Auburn's defensive front a year ago. And it's just what a difference a year makes. We said this whenever we talk about receivers. We say this whenever we talk about linebackers, with offensive line, with the running backs and the defensive line. It's like all of a sudden just depth is all over the place. And you can also kind of see, okay, when these guys leave, who's going to come up behind them. They're building this program the right way, Brad, and it's really hard not to be pumped about it.
Lack of depth may not lose a game in the first quarter, but it will in the fourth. The presence of depth may not win a game in the first quarter, but it will in the fourth quarter. And
did Aristotle say that? Who said that?
I don't know who said that. It was either him or Plato, one of the two.
I was thinking Plato. It sounds like Plato. Yeah.
Plato or Corso, one of the three. I don't know. But I did, you know what? I tried, Zach, to be more conservative and reserved when it came to my feelings about the pass rush. But the more I see of these guys, the more I'm just convinced.
Well, you know what that's called?
What's that called?
It's the boog.
Yeah.
You're booging a little bit.
It's the boog factor. And I understand, like Brandon Marcello, I guess yesterday posted that August 12th is the peak of every fan base believing the most out of their team. And I guess
ain't that the truth?
I guess I'm guilty of that. certainly when it comes
Marcelo
to
knows what he's talking about for sure.
All right. Speaking of boog, Barner Supply Company, man, it's hard not to boog when you get their gear, when you see it. It's top quality stuff too. Here's what I like about them. All right. They're blue collar people making stuff for they're barners creating for barners. So if you fit into that category, yeah, I'm a barner. I'm a hardworking blue collar individual, family values, that I represent those things. Then you're going to want to go to barnersupply.com. Use our promo code Village Vice at checkout. You'll get 15% off. You'll support an outstanding, creative, wonderful company. You'll support this show a little bit as well. And you can get hats, you can get koozies, you can get stickers. And check out everything they have at barnersupply.com. They're all over this show now. We both got the hats. I've got the sticker on the thing. My son's water bottle, okay? Even my son's water bottle.
Wow.
He's got the Barner sticker right there. So check it out, Barner.
You're raising them right. That's what it looks like.
Trying. I'm raising a little Barner. Can we talk wide receiver depth some more?
Yeah. It's been the story of fall camp, right?
And again, after the scrimmage, I think you have to talk about how realistic is it that we see not only Cam and Perry, but how realistic that we see Malcolm, how realistic that we see Bryce Cain. Bryce becomes the guy who's unheralded in the scrimmage, despite the fact that his speed is every bit as advertised. So
we saw like 80 yards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On 4 catches. And ridiculous speed. So I went back and looked at maybe the most prolific offense that Hugh Freeze had at Ole Miss, which was 2014.
Okay.
And in that year, he had, let me find it because I had it. And then the minute I bring it up, it goes away. He had Laquan Treadwell. He had Evan Ingram. He had Cody Core. He had Vince Sanders. And as soon as it loads, I'll give you the rest of them. He had Quincy Adeboyo too.
Did you say Evan Ingram?
Yep, Evan Ingram was there.
Okay.
So that year, Zach, when there were, they accounted for 3,500 yards passing the 2014 season. That was 1,000 more than their opponents, by the way. So in that year, the leading receiver was Vince Sanders with 696 yards. Sanders, Ingram, Treadwell had 600 plus. Cody Core had 558. Quincy Adeboyo had 313. Jalen Walton, he was a running back, wasn't he? Was 6th on the team with 206 receiving yards, and they had another guy with 173. They had 4 guys with 550 yards or more. Their number 5 receiver had 300. Their number 6 receiver had 200. So if I give you Auburn's roster, their wide receiver room, how many guys are getting 200 yards or more? How many are getting 500 or more? You don't see. You don't.
Yeah, this is. I have such a hard time with this conversation because when you look at that, like it makes sense to say like 5 or 6, but that's just such a major step.
Yeah,
it's a major step from where we were a year ago. I mean, we did this. Was it on yesterday's show? We did this like not too long ago.
Yeah,
where we were like, okay, well, Auburn's 5th receiver a year ago. I got it right here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's rushing. Let's see. So Rivaldo, Javaris Johnson, Jay Fair, Caleb Burton. So Shane Hooks was our 5th receiver with 144 yards. And you're telling me that our 5th or 6th guy is going to get, over 200. Like that would just be insane to me.
Yeah.
What you're saying makes sense. And when you look at the talent at Auburn's wide receiver room, it makes sense. That would just be such a drastic improvement from year 1 to year 2. Yeah. And if the defense does what we think it can do, if this happens, Brad, what you're saying, similar to what he did in 2014 at Ole Miss?
Yep.
I mean, you're looking at a 9-3 football team if all that happens. And it's just, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around it. Man, I'm pulling for it. And it makes sense. I'm just, Well, like when you look at Auburn's roster right now, it's like, okay, who are the guys that we think are capable of more than 300 receiving yards?
Yeah.
Robert Lewis. Yes.
Yes.
He's literally done it.
Yeah.
KLS.
Yes.
Yes. Literally done it. Cam Coleman. Yes. Yep. Then I think it gets tricky. Then I think it's based off of usage after that. Like if Perry's given enough targets, yes, I think Perry's a true freshman, does it. After this past weekend, Malcolm Simmons, if he's given enough targets, sure.
Rivaldo Fairweather can do it if he's given enough targets.
Yeah, I was just looking at receivers, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, can Sam Jackson do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can Camden Brown do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
If he gets enough targets, but are there enough targets to go around? And also, Jarquez will probably get there too this year, by the way.
And that's the question. That's where it comes in. And that's kind of always why I bring this conversation. I brought it up like once or twice since the end of last season. Once you saw this recruit, you can't go into the year expecting that the Freeze Four are all going to get 400 yards receiving. They're all going to get 40 catches. That's not going to happen. Robert Lewis and KLS and Cam Coleman and Cam Brown and Caleb Burton and they're not all going to get 40 catches this year. It is very rare that more than your top 4 or so get numbers in that. Now, Laquan Treadwell,
Auburn had 0 players get 40 catches last year.
Right. Those Ole Miss teams had 2 guys get 40 or more, and then Sanders had 39, Ingram had 38. Sanders missed a game. Remember, that was 2014. That's the year that Treadwell suffered the injury going in against Auburn with still a couple of games left in the regular season. So
I'm sorry, Brad, just real quick. Can you name the last Auburn receiver that got 40 catches in a season?
They got 40 in a season, Ryan Davis.
It's more recent than that.
Oh, okay.
It was in 2021, 2 players got 40 or more catches. And I would have never gotten this on a trivia question.
Demetrius didn't get 40 in 21, did he?
No, he got 37. There were 2 ahead of him.
John Samuel Schenker.
No, he was at 33. Shedrick Jackson got 40.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then Kobe Hudson got 44.
The natural
wide receiver. Yeah,
sure. And he's doing natural wide receiver things at UCF too now. So
good for him.
If only he had offensive tackles to block. Anyway, so it's fascinating to me to see throughout the year how this shakes out. We are not a couple of Barners coming on and telling you that 8 different receivers are going to have 30 catches or more this year. So I think at some point we might feel like some guys aren't being used the way that we wish they could, but you can't, you also got to have guys in the game and not rotating in and out every other play. And there's only one.
How many do you think get 40 catches this year?
I
want to say 3, but that seems too high.
Yeah, it really does. Because
I want to say, I want to say Cam Coleman. I want to say Robert Lewis. I want to say Rivaldo. But there's no way they all 3 get 40 catches. There's no way, right? I mean, that'd be insane. That would be insane.
Well, for that to happen, this is why I go back to the numbers game. How many completed passes do you expect in a game on average? I mean, do you expect 15 on average?
I'd say more than 15 on average.
All right. So you expect 18?
I think Peyton's going to throw it about 30 times a game.
Okay. So 18 would be 60%.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about 20-ish, probably 20 completions a game.
All right. Out of those 20 completions, 10 could go to Cam, Robert, Rivaldo. And then you have another 10 to disperse. Yeah, that's doable. If you average 20 a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could do that.
I think they want to. I think they want to average that.
Mm-hmm. Does KLS not get there?
I don't know. This ankle thing's got me a little concerned.
That's fair. Although I like that he was in full pads and running routes and stuff. He wasn't.
Yeah, it seemed like he's going to be fine. But I mean, how many times do we see that? Like once something like that happens, it's so easy to bother it again. I'm just concerned about it.
Yeah,
I'm just concerned. I'm glad there's depth there, but I am concerned about it. Yep.
All right. Let us know in the comments who gets 40 catches or more this year. If it's 1 player, 3 players, 5 players, no players. Let us know in the comments who gets 40 catches this year.
Yeah, you could say any of those numbers, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't have an argument for or against it. Like that's just
how
tough.
Many need to get 40 for Auburn to win 9? Do 3 need to get 40?
I mean, if all of them get 20, it's better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if I can answer that question without context, like.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I'm just telling, like, if Cam Coleman gets 40 catches, though, how many of those are touchdowns?
Yeah, that's a good question. Laquan Treadwell had 48 in 9 games. He averaged over 5 catches a game.
Is that the year he got hurt against us?
Uh-huh.
It is 14.
Yeah.
He was a monster.
Oh, he was
a monster.
He was unstoppable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. You see, I'm sporting it. Little rowback action. Head over to rowback.com. They've got everything you can imagine in the apparel world. They've got quarter zips. They've got my favorite type of hoodie ever, that thin hoodie that it's just so cozy. It's just so, I can't wait for it to drop 10 more degrees. I'm just going to wear that thing all the time. They've got hats. They've got shorts, all sorts of athletic leisure wear, golf wear, whatever it is. Rowback has you covered. And we don't want you to pay full price. Use promo code VICE20 for 20% off your order over at rowback.com. You will not regret it. They make my favorite clothes. They make my favorite clothes now. I am a Rowback truther, and use promo code VICE20 to get 20% off your order. Brad, Auburn's gone like a week, or I guess maybe 2 weeks, without landing a commitment.
What's happening?
Yeah. It's like,
what's happening? Why is momentum stalling? What's going on?
Yeah. What's going on?
No, I wanted to ask you about this because we get caught up in fall camp and scrimmages, and it's not wrong to start focusing your attention on the 2024 Auburn Tigers, but there's still plenty of action going on. There's still, activity under the water, so to speak, that's just waiting to surface on the recruiting front.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're fine. I think we're fine on the recruiting front. I'm getting messages on Instagram and Twitter daily.
Yeah.
What about Deuce Knight? What's going on? What's going on? Calm down. It's fine. It's fine. All of these arbitrary dates are coming from the Notre Dame side of things. And I just think it's important to think, okay, if we're being told that this date is important, what's the context and why are we being told this? And it's all from the Notre Dame side of it. And the Notre Dame side of it didn't want to believe that he was in Auburn. It's like, they don't know. They've got no clue. Notre Dame is not very close to Mississippi. I guarantee you that Auburn's side of things knows what's going on in the Deuce camp way more than Notre Dame, because it's been that way for the last few months. I mean, Notre Dame had no clue. They had no clue that Auburn was even in it for Deuce Knight, and that the family was interested in Auburn. So I'm not taking their word on which arbitrary dates they need to get to and say, oh, it's a good thing. Seems like a lot of coping. Seems like a lot of hoping from the Notre Dame side of it. And I'm just not buying it. Now, I do think you've seen other types of recruitment battles stall a little bit, because I think some of these upper tier guys, I think they're very interested in Auburn, but they want to see who the quarterback is. They want to see who the quarterback is. So, I mean, when you talk about 5-star offensive tackles, 5-star wide receivers, they want to see if you can land that quarterback before they're ready to pull the trigger. If Auburn does flip, and I do believe they will flip Deuce Knight at some point, and I think it'll be before the season. Yeah. You're going to see there's going to be a ripple effect, and Auburn's going to get other guys that they would not have been able to get without getting a quarterback like Deuce Knight in the boat. So that's coming. Yeah. Don't panic. Don't start dissing these kids on Twitter because they see it. Stop it. It's fine. Just let the staff do what they're doing. They're one of the best staffs in the country when it comes to accumulating talent. Just give them time. They're going to figure it out.
Let them cook, in other words, right?
Let them cook.
You guys are doing some cooking over at thebarnauburn.com. You got recruiting nuggets and practice observations and everything. It's a really exciting time there, Zach.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting like 100 new signups a day, and you want to be a part of it. We're really proud of the content and the community that's building up over there. Thebarnauburn.com. I'm there. Brad's there. Kyle's there. You may know him as Charlie 5. Our buddy Daryl Daprich is posting stuff a ton too. So be sure to check it out. Thebarnauburn.com. It's $1. It's $1 for your first month. And if you hate it, okay, sorry. Sorry. If you hate it, you know what? I will Venmo you $1 if you want the $1 back.
Wow. How about that?
I'll Venmo you $1.
Who else is going to give you a guarantee like that?
Yeah, it's $1. Come on.
That's what I love about that. You go, why another message board? Well, check it out. Taste and see. Check it out for yourself.
We posted stuff this weekend that wasn't on any of the other boards. So be sure to check that out, thebarnauburn.com. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks everybody for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. I will read them all. I promise you that. And remember, until next time, everybody has vices. Everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.